Hello, welcome to the Lone Show. I'm your host, John May Lone, and in this episode, I've brought on regular Eric Taylor. And as for our guest, he's from Sisterville, West Virginia. He's a film and TV writer, cartoonist, author, musician, and voice actor. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dave Shelton.
Oh, nice to be here. How are you?
Oh, I'm starting. I'm already starting freaking you out, which is great. I always like to do that when I start a podcast.
Okay, nice, cool. So, how's life?
Oh, life is worth living, and it is wonderful. I guess I don't know if your audience knows, but like your introduction says, but as far as what type of projects I've worked on, I was a film and TV writer. I worked on shows like Everybody Loves Raymond. I was with National Lampoon for 8 years as a senior writer and head of cartoons. Was a cartoonist for Disney and Classic Supo. Worked on shows with people from Rugrats. And then I was with Warner Brothers. I worked on Tweety and Sylvester. And as a musician, I've recorded with Larry Thomas. And I had a couple of hit kids singles out, one called I Am a Zombie on Jenny Radio. And Albert Haig, who wrote How the Grinch Stole Christmas, he used to be my songwriting partner. He was also in the show and the movie Fame, not the horrible remake, but the original one with Debbie Allen back in the 80s. And I also have a children's book out called Bag Boy and Sweet Slob, which just won the International Book Awards and the San Francisco Book Festival. And we're already finished with the second one, which should be out by the end of the year. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. I have a syndicated radio show called Cemetery Go-Go, which is kind of like a horror version of Dr. Demento. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Maybe.
Oh, he had like kind of a weird syndicated show of obscure music and loony music. And he would always go like, "Hi, this is the Dr. Demento Show, and I'm Dr. Demento with your fabulous features." And he would play the weirdest songs and everything, from Monster Mash to Fish Heads. So mine is basically a music horror show taking place in a cemetery with a character called the Groovy Grave Creeper. And he sounds something like this. "This is the Groovy Grave Creeper, and you're listening to Cemetery Go-Go on this station." And he plays old movie soundtracks and trailers. And I mean, it's really, really cool. And then on the other side of it, I have a podcast on Anchor and Spotify called Bitching with Bitchy the Clown. And he's an uncensored, in-your-face, demented clown from New Jersey. And he's had a lot of interesting guests on his show. He's an equal opportunity hater, as I call him. So like he makes Krusty the Clown look like Bozo. So it's a very bizarre show. And then I've got a couple of things on that were on Amazon. I don't think they're on there right now, but a couple of TV shows I had on there. One called Professor Creepy Scream Party, which we're working on a full season for. And the other one is Against Type, which we're also trying to go full season. That was on NBC in their pilot season. So we're trying to get that as a full season. And I'm also running for state delegate here in West Virginia, believe it or not.
Wow.
You have
quite a portfolio. Oh my god.
I haven't even gotten everything I've ever worked on. I worked at Nickelodeon. I worked on Double Dare. I was with MTV. You don't want to know the type of work I've had, I swear. And I'm originally from New Jersey, by the way.
Wow, you must have a lot of money saved up then.
Oh, you would think so, huh?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'm living the Hollywood life, I tell you.
Oh yes, good for you. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, you were saying no. You can finish.
No, what I was saying is you have quite a life ahead of you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. You know, my cardiologist gives me that information every day.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah, he says you got a long life ahead of you.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how was working on like Nickelodeon and Disney for you? Like, what was it like?
Nickelodeon was great. I mean, I was one of like a billion cartoonists for them. I worked on 100 Dalmatians, the TV show, and it was great. I was doing pencils and cleanup was, what they call when you make errors, like either in inking or in penciling, and you kind of clean up the drawing for the animators. So I worked on that with them, and Nickelodeon was great. Working on Double Dare, I helped with create the physical challenges, with use of slime and stuff like that. It was great. Worked with Mark Summers, and this was all in New York before I headed out to LA.
Okay.
It
Nice.
was a blast.
Okay.
It was like such a blast. You know, my dream job was when I was in college during the 70s, and Animal House came on, and I fell in love with that movie. And I said, of all the things that I was going to study, which was film and animation and cartooning and writing, I'm going to work for National Lampoon. And sure enough, when I moved to California from New York and New Jersey, my first job in California was National Lampoon.
Wow.
Yeah, how
Nice.
many people could say they have their dream jobs?
uh,
Well, maybe
Okay.
if you're
no.
like a serial killer or something, that might be their dream job. But I opted for like a legitimate one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I think you said Double Dare. At first, I didn't know you were talking about, but then I looked it up. I was like, wait, oh, this show. Because I forgot what it was for a minute. I think I've seen it before.
Yeah, people have they don't unless you're really a fan. It might have been just something that people watched.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't know, because the name sounded a little familiar. I just couldn't like completely remember. But I think I have seen it. Like I think I have seen like some episodes before.
Yeah, it was a fun show to work on. Although some of the parents were dumber than their children, but when the father has to look at the kid for the answer, there's something wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is something wrong. I think the parent should know more than the kid.
Oh yes.
Like
I,
nowadays.
I mean, well, yeah, yeah, you lived longer. You should know more than me. It's like,
Oh, you would think so, but ask the politicians; they don't know anything, and some of them have been around for 50 years. And
wow.
that's one of the reasons why I moved out of LA after living there for 30 years, because I just got sick of everything going on there. The crime, um, the traffic, the stupidity going on. The industry has become so jaded, as you can see, with everything from woke to Me Too to the fact that diversity and um, progressiveness, it's just becoming insane. It's no longer about the talent, it's about your color, your gender. And you can call me Mister, because I am going to be a man the rest of my life. I know where my parts are, and I have no intention of losing them.
Oh yeah.
Unless I
Hmm.
start dating Amanda Heard, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Nah. Probably not.
uh, yeah. Wait. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
so true. If you start dating her, yeah, that's never gonna happen.
I've had my share of Hollywood women, let's just put it that way.
Like how, like were most of them bad, or like were some at least a little percentage of them good, like, or were
Oh, some of
how
them
were
were
they?
some of them were total craze mongers and stuff, but and some also just wanted to date you because, of course, you can try to get them somewhere, like a job or something. And yeah, I've had my share of those. I was a circus clown, and I had circus groupies that used to follow me around from city to city. But it was a summer job I had in college. I went to the University of Florida. So it was the Clyde Beatty Cole Brothers Circus. And yeah, these women, and they wouldn't like you to take your makeup off, by the way. It was like, oh, why don't you just come to my house, but stay in costume?
Wait, wait, wait,
And
wait, 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 wait. They were in costume while they were at your house.
No,
Is
I
that what
would
you
go.
said?
We'd be on tour with the circus,
Oh,
and then the groupies would come to the tent after the show, and we hadn't taken our makeup because we got to meet with the audience. And some of the women would be like, "Why don't you come over for dinner or something?" And I said, "Oh, let me just wash up." And they'd be like, "No, don't do that. I like you just the way you are. It's more mysterious." And I'm like, "Okay." I learned I learned that there's a whole world and subculture called plushies later on that kind of live through stuff like that with costume characters and puppets and doing weird things. I've actually gone to one of those.
mm,
Okay. Cool.
okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
you could look up plushie parties online and you could see some of that.
Okay. Nice.
I'll
So,
bet every Comic Con has one of those plushie parties, I'm sure, because all the cosplayers.
Mm,
yes, of course.
yeah, they do.
So, what has been the best part for you working in Hollywood?
Probably seeing my work come to fruition. And one of the things I've always felt like with my life is I want to leave a positive legacy for people, whether it's through my writing or filmmaking or cartooning or music, just something that, when I'm gone, people can still hear or see and go, you know what, that made me feel better. And so
Uh,
that's really the best part of working on it. And seeing your stuff up there either on film in the theaters or on TV, you know, and like you said, I'm not one of the one percenters that made like $8 billion, for working in the industry. As much as I've done, we're still called journeymen, and we just, we do it more for the love of it. And yeah, the money is great; it's helped me to survive. But almost everything I've ever made, all the whether it's hundreds of thousands or whatever, I've always reinvested in my work. So that's where most of my investments have gone. And you know what?
cool.
It's been the best journey because I feel I've done it my way instead of, following others. And yes, when you work for studios, you work for production companies, you do have to follow some of their uh, agendas and things like that. But, when I left Raymond, I just started working on my own stuff and I haven't looked back.
Okay. Great. Good for you.
That's great to hear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some of us left in the industry. I always find like it's so funny because there's so many jaded people. It's like it's almost like Dante's Inferno when you look at the way people act in Hollywood. And I always said, because I didn't come from LA and California, but when I got there, I started to see a lot more difference in what goes on in New York because, I worked in a lot of stuff there. I used to joke, I said, meeting all these different people with attitudes, I go, is there an asshole clause when you go to over the California border that you have to sign to get into Hollywood? I said, it's so ridiculous that people lose their selves and their egos become just so much bigger than their personalities. And they really don't have to do that. I think it just people around America, when I moved to West Virginia, they see it, and I talk to people all the time about it, and they go, yeah, you look at the stuff like went on the Oscars, you look at because I've also done a lot of stand up, like I was with Comic Relief when I was at National Lampoon, and I did a book on stand up comedy that I was part of called Comic Lives, and you see the type of people that these people become when they get famous, and it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know. It's like I just can't see myself. I just can't see myself having a big ego if no matter how much money I have or no matter how much status I have. I just can't see it. Like
Well,
if I,
I'm a geek. So I consider myself part of the nerd and geek world. No one could beat me up in high school because I was an athlete plus a geek, and the athletes were confused, so they didn't know whether they were going to beat up one of their own. So I felt safer
What?
in high school.
Oh
It
boy.
was it was great and stuff. So, but I could defend all the other nerds because they could kind of relate to me.
Okay. You
that
know,
is great to hear.
yeah. I used to be that kind of person back in high school. I was a balance between a bit of the popular kind of person, but also a bit of the introverted kind of geeky nerd kind of guy. Like I'm always on both sides, and no matter what, I still have good respect for both of them, regardless. So
Well,
yeah,
see, that's good. Did you play anything like cricket or something?
I wouldn't say quote predator, but I would say a bit of a middleman kind of person, you know?
All right. Well, did you play sports like soccer, well, football or
Oh
cricket?
no, no, I didn't fully play sports, but I was kind of in a level of popularity where I'm hanging out with the cool kids kind of way.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, a lot of my inspiration for my writing is from British television. Like my comedy is based on. I'm very politically incorrect when it comes to my comedy. So the way things have been stifled lately, I just throw it back in their face. Like if you listen to Bitchy the Clown, you will see that. But my inspirations for comedy were like The Young Ones and what is it, Neighbors, and To the Manor Born, like early British comedy, even like Benny Hill. But I also loved the show with Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson where they play like these psychotic roommates. Do you remember
Okay,
that one? That was
a little
in the
bit, yeah,
'90s.
yeah.
But The Young Ones and British music and stuff, I thought, before even, England started getting woke and a little more careful about what they put out. Um, I just loved it. And then everything from Monty Python, Lenny Henry, the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. Remember them?
Oh yeah, I remember them. Those were the days.
Uh-huh. Well, you're probably way younger than I am, so you may or may not have remembered some of my references.
Well, it's 50-50, but I understand what you're saying.
I'm
Right.
19, so
Absolutely Fabulous was also one of my favorites. What's that?
I'm 19, so I don't think I get the references.
Oh my God. You so have to go on YouTube. You need to like retro yourself up, but even Ab Fab, I just love those guys and stuff as well.
You know, get
But
with it.
yeah, come on, man. This is like you got to watch Austin Powers a few times to get into it. So, which was, I mean, his take on British '60s was just like spot on.
Oh
I mean,
yes.
my favorite era of music that inspires my music writing is like freak beat '60s from, you know, Mod London, and when the styles were cool, when James Bond was cool, like that whole era was such a big inspiration for me.
Oh yeah.
And and it's definitely reflects in my work, but everything, as I said, I've always been and being from New Jersey originally, we don't really kind of take crap from stuff. I grew up around a lot of Italians in northern New Jersey. James Gandolfini lived nearby. John Travolta grew up in the neighborhood. So, a lot of the Gaudis, I think, the Gambinos had some members out there. Not that I hung out with any of them or anything, but well, they're not allowed for me to tell you that I used to hang out with them.
Okay.
And
Okay.
no, that I never hung out with any of them. Don't worry.
Okay.
If you hear me say I know a guy, then you better be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was life for you growing up?
Oh, I grew up in northern New Jersey, and the town was called Montvale. And, it was like a typical half Jewish, half Italian neighborhood. It was only about 30 miles from New York. I didn't have the greatest home life, so a lot of my creativity came from an escape. Um, and I think watching movies and reading were my respites for, being able to survive a bad childhood. And I'm, as sad as that sounds, I'm really grateful because I think going off on my own really spurred my imagination. I think maybe I was already born into this industry. I think some people are born to be athletes, some people are born to be scientists, and I was kind of born to be into a literate world in entertainment. And that covers all elements. I mean, I'm in the parapsychology um, and journalism. I started my career also as a journalist with Tiger Beat. So I was a writer for magazines, Rockville. I got to cover everything from the Grammys, but I've always also been into the intellectual side of literature. I read everything by Arthur Conan Doyle and Charles Dickens and Edgar Allan Poe. So you could see some of the dark side of the things that I write. I love writing horror, but intelligent horror and mysteries. And the only thing I won't write is romantic comedies, because with my pathetic love life, that's the last thing I need, is to be writing about someone else's good love life.
Okay.
Yeah, get in line. Get in line. My love life is more pathetic, bro. I've only had like probably one or two girlfriends, and both of those relationships were terrible. It was
You're
terrible.
19. When you get to be 54, then you could tell me your love life was sucks. But I was with my last fiance 10 years, and she broke up with me 3 times while we were living together. And I went out with other women while we were broken up, but still living together. She would come to the places where we were and say we weren't broken up. Now, what does
Really?
Oh,
that say?
dang.
So, and
Yeah, that's a
she's a psychiatrist too, which makes a lot of sense. Because she told me, just because, how every guy in the world, I don't care what country you come from, you're going to yell at the TV, you're going to yell at the news, you're going to yell at a sporting event, you're going to yell at something, you're going to drink a beer and react. She said, every time that happens, I needed therapy. So I said, all right, I'll go one time for you. So I went to a psychologist, and he said, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, well, I yell at the TV, and my fiance told me that I'm psycho. And he said, well, why don't you bring her here, because she needs the therapy, not you. And I went back to her, and her reaction was, well, then that psychologist needs his own therapist. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you a Democrat? it was
so
so,
so
it
that
was so
so
funny.
that so that psychiatrist is like seen something like that happen before then. If he's saying she needs a psychiatrist, then right?
I think most psychiatrists need them. I think you don't get into a field in anything unless you need to be part of it. And I think, I don't know what some of her traumas might have been, but uh, I know she was a hoarder, a border hoarder. That's what inspired my children's book. It's called Bag Boy and Sweet Slob. And it's basically about a guy who loves to recycle. And I called him Bag Boy because she used to call me Bag Boy, because we'd go to all these red carpets and these Comic Cons and everything, and they give you all these bags. And I said, why don't we repurpose them instead of just like throwing them away? And so she called me Bag Boy. But since she was such a slob, those bags came in really handy. I mean, she broke a closet rod that went across the entire hallway twice because she had too many things on it. But the thing is, when it broke, it didn't fall to the ground because there was so much stuff underneath it. It kept the bar up. And I'm going, who does that? But so I called her a sweet slob because she was like kind of sweet, but the slob part. So the bags and the slob kind of complemented each other, and it made for a great children's book.
Okay. I never thought of it that way.
Well, sometimes you never know where your inspiration's coming from.
No, that's true. That's true.
So, what else would you like to know about me?
Well, I think we said more than enough, but I'm still more than happy to go right ahead with asking more about you. Like,
I think this is the part where you usually ask if your mind was an island, what would it be, right?
oh yes, that question. So, so if your mind was an island, what would it look like?
Oh my gosh, no one has ever asked that before. Um, I'd like to say it would either be Manhattan of the 60s, Manhattan Island of the 60s, or maybe Crete, during the epidemic. Um, or I would just like to be England of the 60s and 70s also. That's what I would be if I were an island, because I think we need that. I'm so concerned about what's happening in the world today, which is one of the reasons I'm running for state delegate here. But, you know, there's so much that these islands have that were so wonderful back then. I equate England to New York as to what it used to be. And so those are the two islands that I really think I relate to the most. And if I were one, I would be those.
Okay, interesting choices. I like that.
Yeah, I like those choices. They're really interesting. I like that.
Cool, cool.
Well, until if when California has the big earthquake and they become their own island, I probably still wouldn't want to say California.
Okay, cool. So, which pizza topping do you think you most relate to?
As a person, or like to eat?
I don't know, both.
Okay. Well, the topping I relate most to is everything, because I'm a full, you know, everything topping pizza kind of guy. I don't like just one thing. I'll even eat anchovies if it's on it.
Like,
So probably
would you eat marshmallows if it was on it?
I would eat anything on top of pizza, but it's got to be thick crust. Or it can't be like the thin crust, because, well, one, there's no way to hold anything on there, but I just like everything. I'm also of the mindset. I have a book out called Brain Explosion, which is a collection of all my cartoons and writings from National Lampoon. And it's called Brain Explosion because my brain can't turn off. I never get writer's block. I never get at a loss for ideas. I mean, I'm just one big explosion of things. So I've always liked things full. Everything has to be piled on. But I'm really good at discerning what are those toppings and where they're placed. So I'm very logical thinking, but I just also like everything on top. So that's probably why those kind of toppings for me would work. Everything.
Okay, interesting choice.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, cool, cool. That is all we have for this episode. It was great having you here, Dave, talking about your work as a film and TV writer, cartoonist, voice actor, author. Wow, a lot of things, and loads more. It's been amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, it's been my
and I'm not gonna lie, you're probably the most interesting guest we've had on here so far, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. You're like
Aw,
really interesting.
how many guests have you had?
Well, I've pretty much lost count since halfway season 2, and this is like the start of the season. Well, I don't have no idea at this point because since someone has broken the space-time continuum, so I've completely lost track of my season counts. So yeah.
Oh, I'm only kidding because you said I was the most interesting guest, and I'd be joking like you probably had 3 guests on the show and stuff. But
I, I
No,
mean, yeah, it's like you've done a lot of things. It's just your life is just really interesting.
yeah.
I love it.
okay, and I'm just getting started. Believe me, I have so much in the pipeline, and that's including new music. I've got some new recordings, some more shows. There might be new Lampoon stuff. Um, I'll know next week if I won the election. That would be kind of cool.
Wow.
So yeah, there's the next book. I've got a couple other film project. So I'm just beginning. You know, I don't believe one. I'm not someone that will not stop until I'm dead, and then I'll come back as a ghost and keep going.
Okay. And in my opinion, I think you're like in the top 1% of most interesting guests on this podcast. Yeah, that's
I so appreciate that.
anytime. And
Can I
until
let
next,
people know? Can I let people know where they could find me?
yeah, sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure.
Okay, my website is snuggiebear.com, SNUGGYBEA.com. They can find all the new projects I'm working on there, links to the books, links to Bitchy the Clown, links to the radio show, the shows that were on Amazon. They can go to IMDb. And on Facebook, it's just Dave Shelton. And they'll know it's my profile because I've got the complete cast of Animal House flipping off the camera.
Ah, okay. Oh, that's
Okay.
pretty cool.
Yes, and if things start to lighten up in England, I am coming back there to shoot some stuff.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool, cool.
As I said, I love England and the way it used to be, and I wanted to go back to the way England was when it was cool.
Yeah.
When it was so great when I went to London and I got to see Jeremy Brett do Sherlock Holmes and to go to Harrods and things like that. It was just amazing.
Oh, yes, I certainly agree. And until next time, stay tuned for more.